Hello. Opposition is an important term in the endgames of chess. Chess trainers, chess instructors, and chess teachers have struggled to find the best method to teach the children about this concept that can be a little bit difficult to understand. My suggestion is that you let the children play the opposition game with the driving force to play themselves, but also to understand. To win the game, you have a chance to teach them this concept. How does this minigame work? What you do is that on an empty chessboard, you put out the white king on a1 and the black king on h8. White starts the game. White will win if the white king reaches f8 or h8. Black will win if the black king reaches c1 or a1 like this. So simple, but still interesting. Let us make a summary. When you're going to play the opposition game, you put the white king on a1 and the black king on h8 on an empty chessboard. White starts the game. White wins if the white king reaches f8 or h8. Black wins if the black king reaches c1 or a1. The opposition game is a great way to train the chess concept of opposition. So, what about this concept, opposition? This is it. Opposition is when the kings are opposite to each other like this, with one square in between. Because you know in chess that the kings cannot be on the squares next to each other. Always there must be this square in between. And I usually say that this little square is like an anti-magnetic field that forces the kings away from each other. Who has got the opposition? Well, it's the one that is not on turn. Because if it is black to move in this position like this, white can choose to follow the king like this, or white can choose to break the opposition like this to try to make improvements. That means that it's white who is in charge. Opposition. There are three types of opposition. First, we have the direct opposition like this, when the kings stands in straight line to each other like this. Then we have the diagonal opposition like this. The kings are with one square in between on the diagonal like this. And now we come to the most difficult one, that is distance opposition, when it is 3 or 5 squares in between the kings like this, 3 in this case. What do I mean with opposition with this? Well, if it is black to move, then it's white who has got the opposition. Because if the black king moves forward like this, we will enter the direct opposition. Just to make a summary on this with opposition. 3 types of opposition: direct opposition, diagonal opposition, and distance opposition. The one that can choose to keep the distance or break it has got the opposition. So, before I let you start to try out this little minigame, I want to show you a possible game of the opposition game. So, the initial position of the opposition game, white will win if the white king reaches f8 and h8. The black king will win if the king reaches a1 and c1. White starts the game, and let's say that white now moves on the diagonal towards f8 and h8. Black will play the same. They move forward, and now black to move, and we have a position of diagonal opposition. Black has to move and maybe place king to e6, and now white chooses to follow to keep the distance, to have a direct opposition like this. And as we can see, the white king is closer to f8 and h8, so black must try to cover up these squares. White keeps following and keep the distance. And now, after king h6, white decides to break the opposition by playing king to f5. And now the white king is ready to reach f8 in a straight line from f5 down to f8, so black must try to cover up this. Now, white plays king to g5, and we have a direct opposition. Black plays king to h7. White now makes an improvement by playing king to f6. Close to f8. Black must try to cover up. White plays king g6, and now big trouble for black, because it's not easy, or I would say it's impossible, of course, to cover up both f8 and h8. After king h8, white can play king f7, and the white king reaches f8. Maybe you think that white will win this game every time, but black can play trickier. And now it comes to this with letting the children analyze this with opposition a bit on their own. Because if we take a look at the beginning, let's say white plays king b2, king g7, king c3. Maybe now black plays king f7 instead of king f6. And now maybe white plays king to d4. Then black plays king f6. And suddenly, by losing a move with king f7, it is black who is now in charge and has got the opposition. And now it's no longer possible for white to win this game. So just let the children play and analyze, and they will learn about the opposition. Bye!